Welcome back to Smooth Brain EDH. Today we've got an exciting competitive video for you guys. Everyone's got brand new decks and they're excited to play them too. Tyler showed up with his shiny new Vannifar pod deck. His game plan is to pod into an infinite mana combo like Peregrine Drake and Deadeye Navigator, and then put all that mana into an outlet like Walking Ballista. Justin has put together Thrasios and Bruse Tarl, also known as Blue Pod. Its main win con is trying to Birthing Pod into Kiki Jiki and Felidar Guardian to make infinite attackers, but he's also got some Splinter Twin combos for backup. Cameron is playing Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. He's trying to draw a lot of cards off playing big creatures, then make infinite mana with Selvala, and cast a massive finale of devastation. And lastly, Chandler's playing Grand Arbiter Stacks. He plans to slow down the game plan of all the other decks, and then win with infinite mill combos like Grindstone and Painter's Servant. Alright, now that we know our players and decks, let's look at what hands they kept. Tyler mulligans to 6 and keeps Command Tower, Gemstone Caverns, Polluted Delta, Bloom Tender, Reclamation Sage, and Quirion Ranger. He puts Volrath's Shapeshifter to the bottom. Justin mulligans down to 5 cards and keeps Polluted Delta, Scalding Tarn, Swords to Plowshares, Deflecting Swat, and Occame Adversary. He puts a Forest and a Heroic Intervention to the bottom. Cameron keeps his 7 of Forest, Gemstone Caverns, Wirewood Lodge, Mox Diamond, Worldly Tutor, Momentous Fall, and Relic Golem. Chandler also keeps his 7 of Prismatic Vista, Sea of Clouds, Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale, Mystic Remora, Transmute Artifact, Windfall, and Karn the Great Creator. Pretty good hands all around, now let's get into the game. Chandler wins the die roll, and Cameron and Tyler both put in Gemstone Caverns before the game starts, exiling a card from their hand. Chandler starts his turn with a Sea of Clouds into Mystic Remora, passing to Cameron. Tyler, with no non-creature spells in his hand, convinces everyone to not cast into the Mystic Remora. And so Cameron just plays a Forest for turn and passes to Tyler. And on Tyler's turn, he plays and cracks a Polluted Delta, finding a Tropical Island to the battlefield and casts a Bloom Tender. He passes to Justin. Justin plays a Polluted Delta and passes. Chandler pays for Mystic Remora, then plays an island and casts a Soul Ring. He passes to Cameron. Cameron plays his Wirewood Lodge and casts Selvala. He passes to Tyler after that. Tyler starts his turn off with a Quirion Ranger. He then taps Bloom Tender, then bounces Tropical Island back to his hand, untapping Bloom Tender, taps Bloom Tender again, plays Tropical Island, and then casts Vannifar. A lot of turn 2 commanders, huh? After that, he passes to Justin. Justin plays a Tropical Island for land for turn, and then sacrifices his Polluted Delta, finding a Tundra. He then taps for 2 and casts Occame Adversary, and passes to Chandler. Chandler pays for Mystic Remora using Soul Ring, and then plays Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale. He passes to Cameron after that. At the beginning of Cameron's turn, he pays 1 to keep Selvala around. He then plays a Homeward Path as land for turn. Cameron then plays a Sheltering Ancient, drawing a card off Selvala's ability. He then taps Selvala to make 5 mana, and casts Ghalta, Primal Hunger. When Ghalta enters, he draws another card. With nothing left to do, he passes to Tyler. On Tyler's turn, he makes 2 mana off Bloom Tender to keep Vannifar and Quirion Ranger around, and sacrifices Bloom Tender. Tyler then plays his own Wirewood Lodge, and then casts Reclamation Sage, blowing up Chandler's Soul Ring. He then sacks Rec Sage with Vannifar. He finds Fate Stitcher to the battlefield. After that, he bounces Tropical Island to his hand, untapping Vannifar with Quirion Ranger. He then activates Vannifar again, sacrificing Fate Stitcher, and he finds a Peregrine Drake to the battlefield, untapping his lands. He then pays a blue to unearth Fate Stitcher. He taps Fate Stitcher to untap Vannifar, and then taps Vannifar to sacrifice Peregrine Drake. He puts Green Warden of Marasa to the battlefield, and returns Rec Sage from the graveyard to his hand. He passes turn, and Fate Stitcher is exiled on his end step. Justin starts his turn off by paying for the Tabby tax. He plays a Scalding Tarn and then swings for 2 at Chandler. Chandler takes it, and Justin draws a card. He then sacrifices Scalding Tarn, finding a Taiga to the battlefield. He passes to Chandler after that. Chandler lets Mystic Remora die, plays a Prismatic Vista, and then casts Painter's Servant, naming White. After thinking a bit, he passes to Cameron. On Cameron's upkeep, he pays 3 to Tabernacle, and then puts a 1/1 counter on Tyler's Elves, thanks to his cumulative upkeep. He then plays a Mana Crypt, and a Nykthos as land for turn. He then makes 12 mana off Selvala, and casts Momentous Fall, sacrificing Ghalta. He then holds priority and casts Worldly Tutor. He puts Quirion Ranger to the top of his library, and then draws 12 cards. He then casts Quirion Ranger. In response, Justin Swords to Plowshares Selvala. Cameron is A-okay with this because he already drew his 12 cards, but better late than never, right? And so Selvala is exiled, and Cameron gains 2 life. With 6 mana left in his pool, he casts Priest of Titania, and then counts up and recasts Selvala. He then uses his last 2 mana in his pool to activate Nykthos, making 5 mana. He uses 2 of it to cast Kenrith's Transformation on Vannifar, and draws a card off of it. After that, he casts Birds of Paradise. He then casts Mox Diamond, pitching a forest. With nothing left to do, he passes to Tyler, and discards 3 on his end step. Tyler pays 2 mana to Tabernacle, and sacrifices Quirion Ranger. Side note, he did not have to pay for Vannifar because Kenrith's Transformation removes Tabernacle's ability. He then plays a Tropical Island, and passes to Justin. Justin pays 1 to the Tabernacle, plays a Breeding Pool tapped, and then casts Avacyn's Pilgrim. He then passes to Chandler. Chandler pays 1 to the Tabernacle, then plays an island and taps for 2, casting Transmute Artifact, sacrificing Painter's Servant, and finding a Cursed Totem to the battlefield. Chandler then passes to Cameron. Cameron starts his turn off by winning his Mana Crypt roll. He then activates Nykthos, making 6 green mana, and pays for the Tabernacle tax with that, leaving 1 mana in his pool. Cameron then puts 2 1/1 counters on Justin's Avacyn's Pilgrim, due to the upkeep tax, and Justin accidentally puts the counters on the wrong creature, but he fixes that later. He plays War Room as land for turn. Cameron then taps for 5 and casts Ashaya. Selvala's ability still triggers, and he draws a card. Cameron then moves to combat and swings 9 at Chandler, who doesn't really have any choice other than to take it. And after that, he passes to Tyler. On his turn, Tyler plays Rejuvenating Spring after paying the Tabby tax, and then immediately goes to combat, swinging 8 at Chandler. After combat, he passes to Justin. Justin jumps to combat before Chandler can remind him of his Tabby triggers, but he does pay them afterwards. He swings at Chandler for 5. Justin passes after that, and on his end step, Chandler cracks Prismatic Vista, finding a Plains to the battlefield. And after a little math, Chandler realizes he can live 1 more turn if he plays a Humility. So that's what he does. And it's also important to note that all creatures on the battlefield lose their Tabernacle tax. He passes to Cameron after that. Cameron plays a Forest for turn, then remembers his Mana Crypt trigger, rolling, and taking 3 damage. He then pays 1 life and 3 mana to activate War Room and draw a card. Cameron then swings his 6 1/1s at Chandler and passes the turn to Tyler. On his turn, Tyler plays a 1/1 Breaching Hippocamp with no abilities and passes to Justin. Justin swings 4 at Chandler, Chandler takes it, and then Justin passes turn. On Chandler's turn, he decides if he's going to go out spinning and casts Windfall. But unfortunately, this is a no-wheel zone, and Justin hardcasts Force of Will. Chandler passes to Cameron, knowing his time has come.
Gentlemen, it's been an honor.
Cameron starts off his turn by losing his Mana Crypt trigger. He then casts Chrome Mox, exiling Life's Legacy. Cameron then counts all his mana and all the mana he can make off Nykthos. He taps for 8 mana, then activates Nykthos, bringing him up to 14 mana. Then casts Finale of Devastation, X is equal to 12. Chandler requests that he dies to an Elvish Mystic, so Cameron finds one, then all of his creatures get +12/+12 in haste. Cameron moves to combat and swings the Elvish Mystic at Chandler, then sends 3 more 13/13s at Justin, and then the last 3 at Tyler. Tyler goes to block Selvala, but before damage, Cameron casts Berserk, giving Selvala +13/+0 in Trample. With everyone thoroughly dead, Cameron wins the game. Welcome to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. We're trying to put out videos every week and keep it balanced between casual and competitive EDH. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and leave a comment for us if you have any feedback. Thanks for watching.